The bailiff didn't call my name like it belonged in a love story. He called it the way people do when they're about to place a fact on the record. Renee Lawson. The courtroom was warm and dry, but my coat was still damp from the rain outside. It clung at the elbows when I stood. A few heads turned, not because I was famous, because I was the name nobody expected to hear. At the petitioner's table, my sister Hannah sat perfectly still, her hands folded as if she'd practiced looking harmless. Her lawyer kept leaning in, whispering something urgent, the same two words over and over like a prayer he didn't believe in anymore. We need her. My parents were behind Hannah, close enough to be seen with her, close enough to pretend this was still family. My mother's face was tight with impatience. My father's jaw worked slowly, like he was chewing on something bitter. Neither of them looked at me the way parents look at a daughter they missed. They looked at me like a tool they'd thrown away and suddenly couldn't replace. Years ago, they cut me off so cleanly, it felt surgical. It started with one lie, delivered with my sister's soft voice and my parents' hunger to believe the worst about me. Hannah had told them I'd manipulated Grandma when she got sick, that I'd pressured her into changing paperwork, that I'd stolen money meant for the family. It was absurd. I was the one driving Grandma to appointments. I was the one refilling prescriptions, sitting in waiting rooms, listening to doctors explain the same things twice because she couldn't focus. But Hannah didn't need proof back then. She needed tone. She cried at the right time. And she showed the right screenshots, cropped, missing context. She used words like protect and safety until my parents felt heroic for turning on me. My dad called me the night before my college graduation, not to say he was proud, to say, don't come back here. My mother followed with, you did this to yourself. They didn't come to the ceremony. They didn't come to my wedding. They didn't call when I bought my first house. They didn't ask about my life. They just vanished, except for the occasional message from Hannah, the kind that looks innocent until you read it twice. Hope you're happy. Grandma would be ashamed. I learned to live with it, not gracefully, just functionally. I built a life that didn't require their approval. I married someone kind. I made a home that felt quiet and safe. And I stopped checking my phone for people who'd made it clear I wasn't family anymore. So when the court summons arrived 2 weeks ago, my first thought wasn't fear. It was confusion. Because it wasn't a holiday card. It wasn't an apology. It was a notice of hearing. Estate-related, urgent, my name printed in a place that didn't leave room for misunderstanding. And now I was here, standing in a courtroom I hadn't walked into in years, hearing my name again like it meant something. I stepped forward, the damp folder tucked under my arm. The paper inside had absorbed a little rain at the edges. It didn't matter. It wasn't fragile. The judge was in the middle of a sentence when he noticed me. He was an older man with silver hair and the kind of calm you only get after watching people lie under oath for decades. And he'd been addressing Hannah's attorney, letting him frame the story like it was a simple dispute. And given the petitioner's claim that the respondent has been uncooperative, then his eyes shifted. He saw me. He didn't recognize me like we were old friends. He recognized me like he'd just realized a missing piece had walked into the room. His mouth stopped moving. The clerk's typing stopped too, like she'd felt it. The judge leaned forward, eyes on the folder in my hands. "Ms. Lawson," he said, slower now, "you're here under subpoena." "Yes, Your Honor." Hannah's lawyer stood quickly, relief and panic tangled together. "Your Honor, thank you. We'd like Ms. Lawson sworn in immediately. She can confirm the decedent's intent and help resolve this without further litigation." Hannah's lips curved into a small, desperate smile that tried to look confident. My father let out a low breath like, finally. My mother's shoulders loosened a fraction, as if she could already picture me doing what I was told. I didn't look at them. I walked to the rail and set my folder on the table in front of the clerk. Carefully, like you place something down when you don't want anyone to claim you threw it. The clerk glanced at the outside and hesitated. "This is sealed," "It is," I said. The judge's gaze sharpened. "What is that, Ms. Lawson?" I kept my voice steady. "A certified file I requested from the clerk's office the day I got the subpoena." Hannah's lawyer frowned. "Your Honor, that's not necessary." The judge raised a hand. "Let her finish." I nodded once, then added the line I'd rehearsed all week, not for drama, for clarity. "Now it's the only thing that explains why my name suddenly matters to them," I said, without looking at my parents. "And it explains why they need me now." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Clerk, bring it here." The clerk carried my folder to the bench like it weighed more than paper. Hannah leaned forward, her voice just loud enough to reach me. "Renee, don't do this." I didn't answer her. The judge broke the seal, slid out the first page, and began reading. He got 3 lines in, then he stopped mid-sentence, lifted his eyes, and stared at Hannah like he was seeing her for the first time. The judge didn't say her name out loud at first. He just stared at the page, then lifted his eyes to Hannah like he was recalibrating the entire story he'd been handed. "Clerk," he said quietly, "what exactly am I holding?" The clerk stepped closer to the bench and read the header in a steady voice. "Sealed declaration of Evelyn Lawson, filed with the court and ordered held under seal. Release authorized upon contest of the estate." Hannah's lawyer shifted in his seat so fast his chair squeaked. My mother's breath caught behind her. My father's face went tight, like he suddenly remembered paper can outlive tone. The judge looked back down. "This was filed when?" The clerk checked the stamp at the bottom. "5 years ago, Your Honor." 5 years. Right around the time my parents stopped answering my calls. Hannah's attorney stood halfway. "Your Honor, we object. This is—" The judge lifted one hand without looking at him. "Sit." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Then he read from the declaration. Not theatrically. Like a man placing a fact into a file. "If you are reading this," he began, "it means Hannah has challenged my wishes." Hannah went very still. The judge's eyes moved to the next lines, and his tone stayed flat, almost bored. Because boredom is what truth sounds like when it's been waiting in a drawer for years. "I am of sound mind. No one manipulated me. I made my decisions after independent counsel explained them to me." Hannah's lawyer's lips parted slightly. No sound came out. The judge continued. "Hannah has told our family that Renee stole from me." My mother's head snapped up. My father's jaw clenched so hard I saw a muscle jump near his temple. The judge read the next line and paused, just long enough for the room to feel it. "That is a lie." A silence dropped in so cleanly I could hear the clerk's keyboard stop clicking. Hannah's face didn't crumble like a movie villain. It tightened, like she was trying to keep her expression from betraying her. Her lawyer leaned in and whispered something so urgent I didn't need to hear the words to know what they were. "Stop, stop, stop." The judge read on. "Renee is the only one who showed up when I was sick. Renee drove me. Renee sat with me. Renee asked me what I wanted instead of telling me what I should want." My throat tightened, but I kept my face neutral. This wasn't about comfort. It was about a record catching up. The judge's eyes tracked down the page and landed on a paragraph that made him stop again. Not mid-sentence this time, mid-breath. Then he looked up at Hannah's attorney. "Counsel," he said, "where your petition claims undue influence, this declaration directly contradicts that." Hannah's attorney swallowed. "Your Honor, we haven't had a chance to—" "You had 5 years," the judge said, still calm. "She filed this 5 years ago." He glanced at the last section on the page, then at the clerk. "Read the final paragraph," he instructed. The clerk's voice was steady, but the words weren't gentle. "If Hannah contests my estate, she's to receive nothing further. Any share set aside for her is revoked, and the court is directed to enforce this as written. I do not want Renee forced into a settlement through harassment or false accusations. Hannah's lawyer went pale in a way that looked physical. My parents didn't move at all. My mother's lips parted as if she wanted to speak. Then she remembered where she was and who was listening. Hannah's voice finally broke through, sharp and thin. That can't, she wouldn't. The judge cut his eyes to her. Petitioner, you are not speaking through emotion today. You are speaking through evidence. He set the declaration down and turned to the next page inside the folder. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't feelings. It was an attached certificate. Plain, stamped, and dull in the way that makes lawyers nervous. Clerk, the judge said, what is this attachment? The clerk leaned in. Certification of filing under seal, Your Honor. It lists the attorney of record who submitted it and the receipt number. Receipt number. Date. Time. A stamp. The judge nodded once, then looked at Hannah's attorney again. Counsel, he said. You told this court this was simple. It is not simple to contest an estate when there is a sealed declaration directing enforcement upon contest. Hannah's lawyer tried to recover. Your Honor, no contest clauses are not the point, the judge interrupted. The point is your client brought a petition alleging manipulation while the decedent anticipated this exact claim and filed a sworn contradiction. He leaned forward slightly. And, he added, your client's counsel has been whispering all morning that they need Ms. Lawson. Hannah's eyes flicked to him, startled. The judge's tone sharpened by 1 degree. Now I understand why. Hannah's lawyer stood again, voice tight. Your Honor, we request a recess to confer. The judge looked at me. Ms. Lawson, did you have any involvement in filing this sealed declaration? No. Now, Your Honor, I said. I didn't know it existed until I received the subpoena and requested the file. The judge nodded once, like that was the most believable sentence he'd heard all day. He turned to the clerk. Mark the sealed declaration and its certification as Court Exhibit 1. Then he looked back at Hannah. Petitioner, he said, your request for immediate relief is denied. I am freezing distribution until we address authenticity, intent, and the effect of this declaration on your petition. Hannah's mouth opened. Her lawyer touched her arm like a warning. Don't speak. The judge continued, steady and procedural. Where a counsel for petitioner will file a written response within 7 days, addressing why sanctions should not be considered for bringing claims contradicted by a sealed declaration filed by the decedent. My mother made a small sound, almost a scoff, like she wanted to pretend sanctions were a joke. The judge's eyes cut briefly toward the gallery, toward my parents, and the scoff died in the air. Then he looked back at me, and for the first time his voice softened just enough to sound human. Ms. Lawson, he said, you are under subpoena, but you are not here to be used. If you need counsel, you should obtain counsel before the next hearing. I nodded once. Yes, Your Honor. Hannah's attorney leaned toward her again, the urgency now a little desperate. I caught only a few words this time. If she won't help, we're finished. The judge tapped his pen once. Recess, 15 minutes. As everyone stood, my father finally looked at me, really looked, and his eyes weren't angry. They were calculating, like he'd just realized the only way Hannah survives this is if I choose to soften the blow. And that's when my mother stepped into the aisle, blocking my path with the same entitled posture she used to use in my own kitchen. Renee, she said, low and urgent, we need to talk, right now. My mother didn't wait for me to answer. She stepped closer in the aisle, lowering her voice like secrecy could turn this into a private family matter again. Renee, she said, tight and urgent, you need to stop, right now. I shifted to the side so I wasn't trapped between her and the wall. Courthouse hallways have a particular sound. Shoes squeaking, printers humming, people whispering like they're afraid the building remembers everything. It does. I'm not doing anything, I said. The judge is reading what Grandma filed." My mother's eyes flashed. Grandma was confused. That's not what her declaration says. My father appeared a step behind her, slower, quieter, the way he always moved when he wanted to seem reasonable. "Renee," he said, "this doesn't have to become ugly." I let out a short breath. It already is. My mother's jaw tightened. Hannah is terrified. Her lawyer says if you don't help, this could ruin her. There it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "We were wrong." Help. My father tried a softer voice. "Just sign something. Agree to a small settlement. Give her a piece. Huh? Then everyone goes home." I looked at them for a second. Really looked. "You cut me off for 5 years," I said quietly. "You missed my graduation. You missed my wedding. You didn't call when Grandma died." My mother waved a hand like those were minor scheduling issues. "We believed what we were told. And now you're asking me to fix what you chose," I replied. My mother leaned in, hissing, "Because you're the only one who can." It wasn't an insult. It was a slip. The bailiff walked past us then, carrying a stack of papers, and his eyes flicked toward my parents' bodies blocking the hallway. He didn't say anything, but he slowed just enough to make it clear he noticed. My father stepped back half an inch. My mother didn't. "What do you mean? I'm the only one who can?" I asked. My mother blinked like she hadn't meant to say it out loud. And then she pivoted. "Because Hannah's your sister," she said. "Because family." "No," I said, and my voice stayed even. "Tell me what you mean." My father finally spoke, low and clipped. "There's a bank issue." That sentence changed the air, not because bank is dramatic, because it's concrete. My mother's eyes shot to him, furious, like he'd broken the plan. Then she tried to patch it fast. "It's nothing," she said. "Just paperwork. Hannah needs access to an account, something Grandma set up. She can't do anything without you." I didn't answer right away. I didn't want to. But my body already knew where this was going, because I'd lived with Hannah's version of paperwork before. It always meant money. It always meant urgency. It always meant someone trying to outrun a deadline. My phone buzzed in my hand, not a call, an alert. State account. New transfer draft created. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like missing a stair. I hadn't touched the estate account that morning. I hadn't even logged in. I stepped away from my parents, turned my back on them, and opened the alert. The banking app loaded slowly, like it didn't understand what it was showing me. Then it snapped into focus. Pending wire draft. $47,800. Payee, Hannah Lawson. Status, awaiting authorization. My throat went tight. My mother's voice snapped behind me. "Renee, don't be dramatic." I didn't turn around. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, and thought one clean thought. Someone is inside the account. I opened the details. There was a timestamp, a device type, a note line that made my skin go cold. Memo, legal fees, urgent. I didn't yell. I didn't announce it to the hallway. When I called the bank's fraud number from the back of the same screen and put it on speaker just loud enough for me to hear, a woman answered, professional and calm. "This line is recorded. How can I help you?" "My name is Renee Lawson," I said. "I'm the executor on an estate account. I just received an alert for a wire draft I did not create." Her tone sharpened slightly. "Do you see a payee name?" "Hannah Lawson," I said. There was a pause, then typing. "Okay, I'm pulling it up. Do not approve anything. I'm placing a temporary hold while we verify." "Do it," I said. My mother's voice cut in behind me too bright. "Who are you calling?" I kept my eyes on the screen. "The bank." My father muttered, "Renee?" The fraud specialist came back. "Ms. Lawson, the draft was created from an online login less than an hour ago. We're freezing outgoing transfers now." My fingers went numb with relief and anger at the same time. "I need confirmation in writing." "I can send a secure message with the hold reference number," she said. "We'll also preserve login activity. You may be asked to file a report." "Send it," I said. Then I added very clearly, no one besides me is authorized, not my parents, not my sister. Understood, she replied. The hold is active. I ended the call and stood still for 1 second, letting that sentence land. Hold is active. That was the mini payoff, not a victory speech. Just a locked door before the money moved. I turned around. My mother's face was tight, the mask slipping at the edges. My father looked like he'd swallowed something sour. Hannah's lawyer suddenly appeared at the end of the hallway, scanning like he was looking for a lifeboat. When he saw me, he moved fast. Ms. Lawson, he said, breathless but trying to sound polite, can we speak privately for a moment? My mother stepped forward immediately. Yes, talk to her. I ignored her and looked at him. Why is there a wire draft to Hannah from the estate account? His eyes flicked, just once, toward my parents. That was all I needed. He cleared his throat. It's an intended reimbursement for expenses. Expenses for what? I asked. He didn't answer because a door opened behind him and Hannah walked out of the courtroom hallway, face pale, eyes glossy, the performance already loaded. When she saw my phone in my hand, her expression tightened. You froze it, she said, voice low. I didn't ask how she knew. My mother snapped, Renee, stop. This is family money. It's estate money, I said, and the bank just froze it because someone tried to move it without authorization. Hannah's lawyer swallowed. We can fix this with a stipulation. I watched him carefully. You mean you want me to sign something? He forced a smile. A settlement? It would help everyone. Hannah stepped closer, voice trembling in the right places. Renee, please. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm asking you not to destroy me. I looked at her, and for the first time in years, I heard the truth under her words. She wasn't asking for mercy. She was asking for access. The bailiff's voice echoed from the courtroom doorway. All parties back in the room. Recess is over. Hannah's lawyer leaned toward me urgently. If you walk back in there without agreeing to settle, the judge is going to... I know what the judge is going to do, I said, and my voice stayed calm. He's going to ask for proof. Then I walked past them toward the courtroom. Behind me, my mother hissed, You're going to regret this. And in my pocket, my phone buzzed again. This time with a secure message from the bank. Hold confirmed. Reference number attached. I stepped through the courtroom doors with that message ready because I could already feel the next question coming. Not from Hannah, from the judge. When we filed back into the courtroom, the air felt different. Not louder, not more dramatic, tighter. Like everyone had just learned this wasn't going to be decided by who cried best. The judge took the bench and glanced down at his notes, then looked directly at Hannah's counsel. Counsel, he said, during recess, I received a notice from the clerk's office. There was an attempt to file an additional emergency request in this matter. Hannah's lawyer's face tightened. Your Honor, The judge lifted one hand. No, you will answer the next question carefully. Did your client or anyone acting on her behalf attempt to move estate funds today? My mother stiffened behind Hannah, as if she'd been struck by the word funds. Hannah's lawyer hesitated for half a beat, then tried to sound smooth. Your Honor, there are legitimate reimbursement issues. That's not the question, the judge said, voice still calm. The question is whether there was an attempt. Hannah's lawyer swallowed. There may have been a draft. I didn't speak yet. I didn't want to turn this into a shouting match where the judge had to choose who sounded more offended. I waited for the opening that mattered. The judge's gaze shifted to me. Miss Lawson, do you have information relevant to that? Yes, Your Honor, I said. I stood, pulled my phone out, and held it at chest level like what it was. An alert, not a speech. I received a bank notification during recess for a wire draft I did not create, I said. I called the fraud line. They placed a hold. I have the reference number and confirmation timestamp. Hannah's lawyer snapped, Your Honor, that's hearsay. The judge cut him off. Sit down. He looked at the clerk. Clerk, approach. I walked to the rail and showed the clerk the screen. Not the whole thread, not my personal information, just the subject line, timestamp, and hold confirmation. The clerk nodded and returned to the bench. The judge's eyes narrowed slightly. This bank hold confirmation is time-stamped today. It lists an attempted outgoing transfer. He looked at Hannah. Petitioner, did you initiate a wire draft from the estate account? Hannah's voice came out thin. I didn't. I don't even have access. The lie was too clean. My mother's chin lifted like she was daring the judge to challenge it. The judge didn't argue. He asked for specifics. Then tell me, he said, why your name appears as the payee on an attempted wire draft. Hannah blinked. Because I'm entitled to reimbursement. The judge leaned forward slightly. Entitlement is not access. He turned to my parents in the gallery. And if anyone in the gallery is attempting to influence estate assets, understand this. I will treat it as interference with a court-supervised process. My father's eyes dropped to the floor. My mother stared straight ahead, motionless. Then the judge looked back at Hannah's attorney. Counsel, he said, who has login credentials to that estate account. Hannah's lawyer hesitated. Your Honor, you do not need to know the password, the judge replied. You need to know who is handling money while you tell me this is about fairness. He tapped his pen once. Answer. Hannah's lawyer's face went tight. The petitioner's mother has been communicating with financial institutions. My mother's head snapped up. What? She hissed, loud enough to be heard. The judge's eyes cut toward her. Ma'am, another word and I will have you removed. My mother froze. The judge continued. Ms. Lawson is the executor. That means she controls the estate account, not the petitioner, not the petitioner's parents. All not counsel. Hannah's lawyer tried again, desperate now. Your Honor, we can resolve this by stipulation. No, the judge said. I'm done with stipulations that appear designed to outrun scrutiny. He turned to Investigator Halpern, who had remained seated in the front row with his file closed, watching quietly like he'd been trained to wait for admissions. Investigator, the judge said, you're hearing this. Halpern stood. Yes, Your Honor. The judge nodded once. Good. Then he looked at Hannah again. Petitioner, he said, you alleged undue influence, yet the decedent filed a sealed declaration contradicting you. A deed attempt tied to a suspended notary was recorded. Now we have an attempted wire draft during recess. This pattern is not consistent with good faith. Hannah's face went pale. Not from guilt, she felt, so from consequences she could see. The judge leaned back slightly and spoke in clear, plain language. No legal poetry, just reality. Here's what we're going to do, he said. He held up one finger. First, this petition is stayed. No further action on distribution until my next order. A second finger. Second, I'm ordering immediate production of any communications between the petitioner, her counsel, and any notary or third party used for filings. Third finger. Third, I'm ordering that the estate account remain frozen for outgoing transfers unless authorized by the executor and confirmed by the bank in writing. Hannah's lawyer started to stand again, but the judge didn't let him. And fourth, the judge said, voice still calm, I am referring this matter to the court's fraud review process and to the district attorney for investigation of the deed filing. Investigator Halpern will coordinate. Hannah inhaled sharply. You can't. I can, the judge replied. And I am. He looked at me. Ms. Lawson, I want you to understand something. The court is not punishing anyone today. The court is preventing harm. Do you have counsel going forward? I will, I said. The judge nodded once. Good. Then he looked directly at Hannah, and his words were quiet, specific, and devastating in their simplicity. Ms. Pierce, he said, using her maiden name now like a reset, your grandmother anticipated this. The sealed declaration exists because she expected you to do exactly what you're doing. Hannah's eyes flashed with rage and fear. She was manipulated. The judge didn't flinch. If you believe that, you will prove it, not perform it. He tapped his pen once. This hearing is continued. The court's orders are effective immediately. The gavel didn't slam. It didn't need to. The bailiff called, "All rise." As everyone stood, Hannah's lawyer leaned toward her and whispered something that made her shoulders drop. Then he looked at me for the first time, and I saw it in his eyes. He wasn't thinking about winning anymore. He was thinking about surviving what the record was becoming. Hannah didn't look at me when we stood. She stared straight ahead like she could keep her face intact by refusing to move it. My parents didn't try to block my path this time. They didn't speak. They didn't plead. They watched. And that silence told me they finally understood the new rules. When the court is listening, the old family scripts don't work. Outside the courtroom, my attorney, Nadia Patel, met me at the end of the hallway. She'd taken my call during recess and arrived fast, hair still damp from the rain. She didn't ask how I felt. She asked what I had. "Do you have the bank hold confirmation saved?" she said. "Yes," I replied, handing her my phone, long enough for her to screenshot the reference number and timestamp. "Good," she said. "We're going to keep every piece of this boring." Boring, in Nadia's mouth, meant lethal. We filed 2 things before we even left the building. A notice of representation so no one could contact me directly, and a preservation request for the estate account login logs. Not a speech, not a rant, but a request that forces the system to remember. Hannah's lawyer passed us in the corridor with his head down. When he looked up, his expression wasn't smug anymore. "Ms. Lawson," he said carefully, "my client is willing to discuss resolution." Nadia didn't let him speak to me. "In writing," she said, "and stop trying to touch funds. The court is watching." His jaw flexed. He nodded once and walked away. 2 weeks later, the hearing wasn't a dramatic showdown. It was procedural, quiet, and devastating. The judge opened with the sealed declaration on the bench, already marked as an exhibit. He had a stack of documents beside it, certified copies, receipts, and a printout that looked like nothing until you understand what it means. The bank had produced a log-in audit, not opinions, not she said, an audit trail, where it showed the estate account was accessed from 2 devices during the week leading up to the hearing, mine, and another device registered under a phone number I didn't recognize. Then the bank's representative testified by phone, short, formal, clear. The wire draft was created from the second device, she said, not from Ms. Lawson's. The judge asked one question. "Who was the payee?" "Hannah Lawson," the representative answered. Nadia stood. "Your Honor, we subpoenaed the phone number associated with that device registration." The clerk handed up a sheet. The judge read it, then looked up slowly. The phone number belonged to my mother. My mother didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She just sat perfectly still, like if she held her body rigid enough, the fact would loosen and float away. It didn't. The judge turned to Hannah. "The petitioner," he said, "your counsel has now asked this court to treat this as a fair dispute while your household attempted to access and move funds outside the executor's authorization." Hannah's lawyer stood, voice tight. "Your Honor, my client did not personally—" "I didn't ask about personally," the judge interrupted. "I asked about responsibility." Hannah's face flushed. "They were just trying to help you," the judge finished quietly. "Yes, I understand." He sat back slightly. "And here is what I find," he said, voice still calm. "The sealed declaration is credible. It directly contradicts the petitioner's claims of undue influence. Service and filings by the petitioner were designed to pressure the executor rather than resolve the estate. Attempts to move estate funds were improper." He looked down at his notes, and then said the sentence that ended the story in one clean cut. "The petition is dismissed with prejudice." Dismissed with prejudice, meaning she couldn't just refile and try again with a new tone. Hannah's lawyer's shoulders dropped. Hannah's mouth opened, then closed. My father finally looked at me, and his face didn't hold anger anymore. It held regret he didn't know what to do with. The judge continued, because he wasn't done building the locked door. "I am awarding attorney's fees to the executor," he said. "I am ordering that any future challenge by the petitioner requires leave of court. And I am ordering that the petitioner and her parents have no contact with the executor regarding estate matters, except through counsel." He wrote the order number, signed it, and the clerk stamped it with that hard, a final thud that sounds like the world choosing reality. Hannah stood up abruptly, chair scraping. "This is insane," she snapped. "She always gets everything." The judge looked at her, unblinking. "She got responsibility. You attempted to get control." Hannah's jaw clenched, and she turned to leave. Her lawyer caught her arm, whispering urgently. My mother didn't move. My father didn't move. They watched her walk out alone, and for the first time, nobody rushed to protect her from consequences. That's what the court does when it stops being a stage. 3 weeks later, I sat in Nadia's office with the stamped order on the table and a bank letter confirming the estate account was reset under my sole authorization. New login, new device restrictions, 2-step verification, no helpful family access. The letter wasn't poetic. It was perfect. I used the estate funds the way Grandma would have wanted: legitimate expenses, documented reimbursements, and distributions in the order she wrote. Clean. Supervised. Unglamorous. Hannah tried to send a message through my father once. Nadia responded with one line and the case number. After that, the messages stopped. Because people like Hannah don't stop when you ask. They stop when the door locks from the outside. I didn't get a big moment of revenge. I got something better. A quiet life where my family couldn't rewrite the record anymore. If you've ever been cut off because someone lied, would you forgive the moment the truth comes out? Or would you protect your peace and let the consequences stand? Tell me what you'd do. And if you want more stories where evidence beats performance, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.